Come on. The host has completely lost his humanity. The more painful the other party is, the louder and more perverted his laughter becomes. At this moment, an old lady calls the host. He is the director of the laboratory, Dad. The host is still a little afraid of him. Dad asks the host to give Mom the first pleasure. So the host steps down and no one else in the laboratory can survive today. What is the reason that makes the host so crazy? It turns out that it was just a few hours ago. In his son Ryan's school bag, he found a picture of Toru, who was Ryan's mother, and a photo of Picket. He was instantly exposed. He couldn't tolerate another father's place in his son's heart. When Ryan returned to the room, the place had been burned to ashes. He tried to use the intersection to talk about the scars in his heart that he had been abandoned since he was a child and had never been truly loved. Ryan's bottom triggered the trauma of being abandoned deep in his heart. His way of dealing with fear and pain. He never reflected on himself, but committed domestic violence to others. He came alone to the laboratory where he grew up when he was a child. The people in the laboratory trembled when they saw his lust. They saw the cake in the hands of the host, and everyone relaxed a little. I don't know if this was their last sweet spot. He was the first to operate on Frank. The host wanted to compete with Frank for the first prize. The loser will face punishment because Frank used this game to torture the host when he was very young. He locked the people in the oven and raised the temperature to see how high the temperature would hurt the skin of the people. Thinking of this, the people from the country directly forced Frank to enter the oven. He also wanted to use the same temperature to test Frank. If he didn't go in now, the people from the country would throw him and his family in. Frank wanted to avoid attacking his family. He could only walk into the oven obediently. Before closing, Frank was emphatically apologizing to the people of the country for his actions back then. But it was too late. The people of the country turned on the switch without hesitation. Frank inside was wailing in pain and was completely burned out in a short time. However, the people of the country still did not accept the letter. Next up was the fat Emperor Ma. Although he was a loser in the laboratory, the people of the country will never forget the ridicule that Emperor Ma made to him. Moreover, Emperor Ma also gave the people of the country a humiliating nickname. One day I can get married. You call me and I told my friends that you really have a true happiness. I love you. Do you understand? The ridicule of Emperor Ma at that time deprived the people of the country of their most basic dignity as a human being. Now, the people of the country have repaid this humiliation in the most extreme way. So there is a question. Are the people in these laboratories innocent? On the surface, they are just tools for the company's secret situation, but they're by no means truly innocent. Whether it is Frank playing outside the oven or Emperor Ma's ridicule, these behaviors have caused irreparable wounds in the young minds of the people of the country. Here's a conversation between the people of the country and their father. We can see that this is how the twisted psychology of the overlord people is formed. The overlord people grew up in the laboratory and were treated as identityless experimental subjects and weapons. So after reaching adulthood, they spent their entire lives frantically looking for a legal identity and sense of belonging for themselves. The overlord people eventually brought the people in the laboratory to kill, but left Dad for reading. Dad was the person in charge of the laboratory and was one of the closest surrogate mothers to the overlord people. The overlord people had complicated emotions towards him. Many people thought that the overlord people had let Dad go. In fact, no. The people of the country locked Dad up in that house. And then killed him. He will be trapped in the pile, slowly tortured to death by loneliness, fear, and hunger. His fate can be said to be more premature than anyone in the laboratory. To put it bluntly, this scene allows us to see how a monster is created through extreme violence. Those scientific researchers may be the least willing to die, but the pain and distortion of the people of the country are equally real and frightening. He explores the concept of good and evil that is not simple. It's about how a person will be shaped by his past into a completely out-of-control tragedy when the last trace of tenderness is deprived of him. After that, the people of the country began to try their best to create a son. The shirt he designed for Blue Man was almost a miniature of his own uniform. He hoped that in this way, he could completely transform the Blue Man into a man of the country, with the same image, the same formal logic, and the same values. In order to let the Blue Man gain the love and admiration of the public in advance, the people of the country also designed a false rescue for him. After being tortured by the host countryman, Blue Man used his superpower, but it was a poor proof of all eyes. He thought it was an act at the time, but he didn't expect that the other party was pretending to compete. Finally, we might as well discuss a question. Does the host countryman really love his son? Do you want this or not? So I think the people of the country have true love for their sons. But the battle ratio is lower than the battle. It is more of a reputation as a comrade. It is an extension of the word. A person who has never been loved well cannot know how to love others.